Thank you, everybody. Hello. How do you do? Howdy, howdy. Hi, how are you? Thank you. That's okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Hi, howdy, hello, how are you? How do you do? How are you doing? How's it going? What's going on? What's new? What do you think? What do you hear? What do you say? What do you feel? What's shaking? What's happening? Que pasa? What's going down? What it is? Well, we got all kinds of ways to say hello. We got lots of ways to say hello. You know what my favorite one is? How's your hammer hanging? That's a good one, isn't it? Doesn't work too well with women. Unless you're talking to a female carpenter, then it's perfectly all right. I've always wanted to say that one to a high church official. Good evening, Your Holiness. How hangs the hammer? So far, I haven't had that opportunity. Then there's one way to say hello that I really don't care for. There's one way I don't like. You know how some people will say to you, are they keeping you busy? As if someone has the right to come up and give me odd jobs. They say to me, are they keeping you busy? I say, well, your wife is keeping me pretty busy, I'll tell you that. And that seems to hold them for about a half an hour. Then we have a lot of ways to say goodbye, too. We've figured out all kinds of ways to say goodbye. We say bye-bye, so long, see you later, take it easy, be cool, hang loose, stay in there. You know what my favorite one is? Don't get run over. Well, some people need practical advice, you know? And some guys will say to you, hey, have a good one. I say, hey, I already have a good one. Now I'm looking for a longer one. And that seems to hold them for about a half an hour. Then you have all the foreign ways to say goodbye. You know, some people, when they leave you, they think they got to get tricky. And they'll whip an arrivederci on you. Or an au revoir, or auf Wiedersehen, or adios. Or the American version of that one, adios, motherfucker. Or aloha. That's a nice one, isn't it? Aloha. They say that in Hawaii, of course, and that means hello and goodbye. Which just goes to show if you spend enough time in the sun, you don't know whether you're coming or going. Then if you notice this, sometimes you'll get in a rut with the way you say goodbye. Do you ever find yourself using the same phrase over and over again with everybody and you feel a little stupid? Like if you're leaving a party and you have to say goodbye to 5 or 6 people in a row and you say, okay, hey, take it easy, 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 okay, hey. You feel like a goddamn moron, you know? So you know what I do? Every month I change the way I say goodbye. Whether I need to or not, every month I start using a different phrase. People like that. They notice that little extra effort. They'll say to me, pardon me, but didn't you used to say, okay, hey, take it easy? I say, yes, I did, but not anymore. Now I say, farewell. Farewell till we meet again. Peace be with you. May the forces of evil become confused on the way to your house. That's a strong one, isn't it? People will remember you if you talk like that. Or sometimes you can combine several ways to say goodbye that don't seem to go together. Like, toodaloo, go with God and don't take any wooden nickels. Then people don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Or you can say goodbye in a realistic manner. So long, Steve. Don't let self-doubt interfere with your plans to improve your life. Well, some people need practical advice. Now, here's a situation you run into all the time. You notice how when you're leaving someone, a lot of times they'll give you a message to give to someone else. Like they say, give my love to Klaus. Tell Klaus Rebecca sends her love. Do you mind that? Do you mind being used that way? Do you mind the awesome responsibility of having to carry Rebecca's love to Klaus? Suppose you don't see Klaus. What are you going to do with Rebecca's love? Carry it around? Give it to someone else, maybe. Wilhelm, I can't find Klaus. Here's some of Rebecca's love. Suppose Wilhelm doesn't know Rebecca. Can he legally accept her love? Especially when it was originally intended for Klaus. Suppose you give Wilhelm Rebecca's love for Klaus and then you see Klaus, what are you going to give him? All you had was Rebecca's love and you've already gone and given that to Wilhelm. Can you logically ask Wilhelm to give back Rebecca's love to Klaus? Maybe he's gotten used to it by now. Can Klaus sue Wilhelm? Can Wilhelm be arrested? Can you be arrested for transporting love across a state line? All right, just for the sake of argument, let's leave Wilhelm out of this altogether. Suppose Rebecca gives you her love to give to Klaus, and you do see Klaus. What form should the love take? Can you risk giving Klaus a tongue kiss? Which brings up another problem. Maybe Klaus is gay. Klaus doesn't want Rebecca's love. Klaus wants Wilhelm's love. If Klaus tells you to give his love to Wilhelm, say, bullshit, Klaus. You give your own love to Wilhelm. I'm going to find Rebecca. Now, sometimes people don't want you to take their love to someone else. They only want you to take their regards. That's all they're sending that day. Regards. That's not as important as love, is it? By the way, do you always give the one the person wants you to give? I don't. I wait until the last minute and then decide which one the other person ought to get. For instance, Susan might say to me, give my love to Dave. Well, I might not feel Dave is deserving of love. Dave might be one of those people who piss me off. I'll whip a few regards on Dave. Keep him in his place. I feel it's my decision to make. I'm the one who's doing all the goddamn work. And if I really don't like the other person, I'll drop the message way down. Susan might say, give all my love to Dave and tell him I can't wait to see him again so we can make love all night. I'll say, Dave, Susan said hello. Screw Dave, that's what he gets for pissing me off. And some people anticipate which one they're going to get, don't they? Did Susan send her love? No, Dave, she didn't. She only sent her regards. That's funny. Usually she sends her love. Well, not this time. In fact, she specifically said, don't give Dave any love. She's running short of love and has to be careful who she gives it to. However, she's overstocked with regards and wants you to have a whole bunch of them. So be satisfied, Dave. Take your regards and get the fuck out of my life. Well, he should be satisfied with regards. At least it's better than just being sent someone's best. You know, some people just send you their best. Give my best to Dave. Your best what? Frankly, Susan, if this is your best, maybe you ought to keep it to yourself. But even that is better than just being remembered to somebody. God, that's the lowest one of all, isn't it? That's hardly worth telling the poor person. Remember me to Dave? Okay, Dave, you remember Susan? Yes. Well, that's it. My job is done here. I must move along now. I've got to go see Tex and tell him Billy Bob said howdy. And one final little portion of this. Sometimes people want you to take a hug and a kiss to someone for them. Now they've got you carrying cargo. Give them a big hug and a kiss for me. Usually it's women. I find that women are a little more expressive at times like these. And sometimes they're really explicit. Bye-bye, Elena. Drive carefully and give Jake a big blowjob for me. Well, why don't you get Klaus to take care of that for you? Well, anyway, hello. No matter how we say hello, it's nice to say hello to you. Also, I'd like to welcome a few groups that we have here in the audience tonight. Perhaps you'd let us know where you're sitting. The Child Pornographers Association. God bless you. Wonderful work you're doing. The United Syphilis Victims. Many of the same people. The Dirty Rotten Pricks of America. That's a proud organization. And we always have quite a turnout when I'm in town. The Women Who'll Sleep with Anyone. Well, not quite as many of them as I was hoping for. Those of you girls who did show up, don't forget cast party after the show. Now, I'd also like to welcome, we have some people here tonight from some of the local homes in the area. When I say homes, I mean those kind of places where some of us, let's face it, have to be kept. The home for those who no longer feel fine and dandy. The home for those who felt all right about a year ago. And the home for those who gave a shit up until yesterday morning. And apparently we also have some people here tonight from the Center for the Visually Unpleasant. Try not to look directly at those people, unless you're equipped with the special safety glasses. Now, the only reason I mention those groups is because those are a few of the charities that I've been working for lately. I like to mention the charities I'm interested in right here at the beginning of the show. As you know, a lot of entertainers, a lot of people in show business, they want you to know the good works they're doing. And hey, I'm no different from the others. But unfortunately for me, most of the really big charitable organizations are already spoken for. In fact, between Danny Thomas and Jerry Lewis, about 80% of the things that make you limp or tremble are taken. What it amounts to is that most of the really neat diseases are gone. So I'm forced to deal with some of these smaller organizations, such as the Salvation Navy. That's a good outfit. It's hard to get people to join, though nobody really wants to sit in a rowboat with a bass drum in his lap. I'm also working for Ill Will Industries. You've heard of Goodwill. This is Ill Will. It's a little different. You give them brand new items, and they break them and sell them to poor people. I'm also helping the good people at Big Brother-in-Law. Well, that's for married people who don't have a brother-in-law but really want one. And they send a man over to your house who has 2 days' growth and no job, and he sleeps on your couch for about a year. I see some of you have been helped by that program. I'm also promoting a rather novel idea, quarter-of-the-way houses. Well, these are for people who can't make it in a halfway house. Some folks need more realistic goals, don't they? And I'm doing everything I can, as all Americans should, to help fight post-Grenada stress syndrome. Apparently, some of these guys are starting to have flashbacks already. They wake up in the middle of the night and they see a medical student standing on a beach with a suitcase and they fucking flip out. I'd like to talk a little bit about sports. Sports are very big in this country. I'm a sports fan. That's fine, thank you. Good. Yes, I know a lot of people feel positive about sports. As I say, I'm not a fanatic about sports, but I'm not a casual observer either. But I'll tell you this, I'm enough of a sports fan, I have some rules changes I would like to suggest. I think there are some changes we could make in certain sports that would make them more exciting. Like in football, I would let all 45 guys play at the same time. You know, what's this shit standing around watching the game? Get in there, put a helmet on and hurt somebody, for Christ's sake, will you? You're not getting paid to watch, and never mind lining up, just grab the ball and run like a motherfucker, you know? Another thing I would do in football, I would leave the injured on the field. Well, they're always talking about how it's a big war going on out there. Fine, let the Red Cross come around and pick these assholes up. Here's how I'd change basketball. You could make basketball a lot quicker. You know what you do? You have a 2-second shot clock. As soon as that ball is inbounds, get that sumbitch up in the air. I didn't come to watch a game of catch. I'm looking for a 400 or 500 point ball game. I'm a fan. I want 6 overtimes and 1,000 points on the board. Another thing I would do for basketball, at the center court line, for 10 feet on either side of the center court line, I would have a gasoline fire. You talk about the fast break, you'd see the really fast break. Here's another suggestion for basketball. I would allow 25 points for any ball that goes in the basket off another guy's head. You'd see some good fights during those close games, I'll tell you. And you'd increase the chance for serious injuries. That's what I'm looking for, injuries. That's what I like about sports. I don't care who wins these games. If I want to see winners, I'll watch the Academy Awards. I'm looking for injuries, serious, lifelong, crippling, debilitating injuries. I'm an American. Give me a little violence and I'm a happy guy. Most people won't admit that. They'll say, well, I like the competition. Yeah, like Hiroshima, right? Fuck the competition. I'm looking for a leg in 2 or 3 places. Well, now, getting back to how we can improve these sports and speed them up. You know, baseball needs a little speeding up. You know how you speed up baseball? Everybody gets one swing. That's it, one swing. Fuck you, you're out. Sit down. Come on, let's go. Come on. Sit down. Next. Come on. Let's go. That's it. Here's another thing to make baseball a lot faster. If the pitcher hits the batter with the ball, batter's out. You hit 27 guys, you got yourself a perfect game, my friend. You get 2 really good, accurate pitchers out there, and you could be out of that ballpark in 15 minutes. You could be home watching football on TV and see some serious goddamn injuries. One more thing for baseball. Out in the outfield, I would have a series of randomly placed landmines. There's Marshall settling under that ball. Holy shit. Now, I must explain, the only reason I mention baseball, basketball, and football is because, to my way of thinking, these are really the only 3 sports we have. Nothing else qualifies as a sport, according to me. Everything else is a game or an activity. Hockey comes to mind. People think hockey is a sport. Hockey is not a sport. Hockey is 3 activities going on at the same time. Ice skating, playing with a puck, and beating the shit out of somebody. Now, if these guys were intelligent at all, they would do these things one at a time. First you go ice skating, then you play with a puck, then you go to the bar and beat the shit out of somebody. The day would last a lot longer and these guys would have a whole lot more fun. Tell you another reason hockey is not a sport, it's not played with a ball. Anything that isn't played with a ball can't be a sport. These are my rules, I make them up. Hockey is played with a puck. What is a puck? I never even heard of a puck outside of hockey. Have you ever heard of a puck? The only other place you find a puck is in the urinal to control the smell in the bathroom. All right? And as far as I'm concerned, any game where the main object is something that came out of a urinal is definitely not a sport. Soccer is not a sport because you can't use your arms. Anything where you can't use your arms can't be a sport. Tap dancing isn't a sport. I rest my case. Another thing I don't like about soccer, they got dots on the ball. That's a big rule of mine. No goddamn dots on the ball. Running. People think running is a sport. Running isn't a sport because anyone can do it. You know, anything we can all do can't be a sport. I can run, you can run. My mother can run. You don't see her on the cover of Sports Illustrated, do you? People say, I'm going to run down to the store and buy a loaf of bread. Fine. It's not a goddamn sport. I'm not going to pay to watch you buy a fucking loaf of bread. Swimming. Swimming isn't a sport. Swimming is a way to keep from drowning. That's common sense. Sailing isn't a sport. Sailing is a way to get somewhere. Riding a bus isn't a sport. Why the fuck should sailing be a sport? Boxing is not a sport. Boxing is a way to beat the shit out of somebody. In that respect, boxing is a more sophisticated form of hockey. But beating the shit out of somebody is not a sport, in spite of what the police think. When police brutality becomes an Olympic event, fine, then boxing can be a sport. Bowling isn't a sport because you have to rent the shoes. Don't forget, my rules, I make them up. Billiards is not a sport because there's no chance for serious injuries. Unless you welch on a bet in a tough neighborhood. Then if you see a guy with a pool cue sticking out of his ass, you know that might be a sports-related injury. But that's not billiards, that's pool. And that starts with a P and that rhymes with D, and that brings me to darts. Now, darts could be a sport because you might put somebody's eye out. But darts will never be a sport because the whole object is to reach 0, which goes against all sports logic. Lacrosse? Lacrosse is not a sport. Lacrosse is a faggot college activity. Sorry about that. That's right. Anytime you're standing in a field with a stick with a net on the end of it, you're engaged in a faggot college activity. Same thing goes for field hockey and fencing. These things aren't sports because you can't gamble on them. Anything you can't gamble on can't be a sport. When was the last time you made a fucking fencing bet? Gymnastics. Gymnastics is not a sport because Romanians are good at it. Took me a long time to come up with that rule, but by God, I thought of one. Polo. Polo isn't a sport. Polo is golf on horseback. It's a great concept, but it's not a sport. And water polo, I don't even want to mention water polo because it's extremely cruel to the horses. Which brings me to hunting. You think hunting's a sport? Ask the deer. The only thing good about hunting is the many accidents on the weekends. Which brings me to auto racing. Now we're talking serious goddamn injuries, folks. I don't know about you, but that's what I'm looking for in auto racing, a nice crash and a car fire. I don't care who wins these races. It's the same 5 rednecks who win all the time anyway. Who gives a shit about these people? I gotta be honest with you. Listen, I gotta be honest. Driving 500 miles in a circle does not impress me. I'm looking for an accident. Let me put it this way. When else am I gonna see a 26-car collision and not be in the goddamn thing? Then we have tennis. Now tennis, very trendy, not a sport. Tennis is a form of ping pong. In fact, tennis is ping pong played while standing on the table. Great idea, but it's not a sport. In fact, all racket games are nothing but derivatives of ping pong. Even volleyball is racketless team ping pong played with an inflated ball and a raised net while standing on the table. And then finally we come to golf. Do you ever watch golf on TV? It's like watching flies fuck. I get more excited picking out socks. Golf could be fun if you could play alone, but it's these genetic defectives that you have to hang around with that makes it such a boring pastime. Think of the brains that it takes to play golf. Hitting a ball with a crooked stick and then walking after it. And then hitting it again. I say, pick it up, asshole. You're lucky you found it. Put it in your pocket and go the fuck home, will ya? I'll tell you one thing about my personal life that I've never told before. I never fucked a 10, but one night I fucked 5 2s. And I think that ought to count. I think that ought to go in your record as a positive achievement. Never fucked a 1? Hey, never got drunk enough to fuck a 1. You gotta be drunk to fuck a 1. Of course, some guys don't fuck anybody, you know. Hey, let's fuck her. That's a signpost, Bob. Well, let's go for it. Some guys will fuck anybody. Not me, not anymore. Not since herpes and AIDS are going around. In fact, just to be on the safe side, I'm not even jerking off anymore. Well, I don't know where I've been. Lately, I began thinking about bisexuals and thinking what an awful life that must be, what a curse it must be to be a bisexual. Can you imagine wanting to fuck everybody you meet? Think of all the phone numbers you'd accumulate. You might as well just walk around with the white pages under your arm. And you know, I've always wanted to work in a delicatessen just so that a woman would come in one day and ask me to give her some tongue. And I'd say, well, I don't get off till 4 o'clock. And she'd say, well, I don't get off at all. That's why I'm looking for some tongue. So far, I just haven't had the opportunity. Now, this next piece of material is something that most people can identify with. It's about losing things. I hate to lose anything. I don't want to lose anything because where is it? See, basically, that's the part that bothers me the most. I'm a practical guy. Where is it? I just had it. You know that feeling? It was just here. Where is it? I don't know. It's gone. That's true. It's lost. I know. Where could it be? Could be anywhere. Maybe it'll come back. Maybe, but not yet. It's gone. That's true. Are we going to go through this shit again? Where do these things go when they're lost? There are some things, I don't even care if I ever get them back. I just want to know where the fuck they went. You know what I mean? And let me say, losing things is one of those events in life that's even worse when you're a kid. It's even worse because people get on you for it. It's double jeopardy. Not only is the item gone, but you're catching shit from up here. You what? I lost my yo-yo. Well, where did you have it last? Hey, if I knew that, I would still have my yo-yo. Well, it must be somewhere, right? Well, it just didn't get up and walk away. That one always got to me. It just didn't get up and walk away. One time I lost the cat. It just got up and walked away. And she actually started to say it. Well, it just didn't get up and... Hey, Ma, I think you figured this one out. Where do things go when they're lost? You know what I think? I think there's a big pile of things somewhere. I think there's a big, constantly changing pile of things that are lost. You lose something and whoosh, it goes to the pile. And then you say, oh, look, there it is. Right back from the pile. And you didn't even know there was a pile. And where is the pile? In heaven, of course. Has to be in heaven. That's the first thing that happens when you get to heaven. They give you back everything you ever lost. That's the whole meaning of heaven. You get back everything. Here you are, 79 pairs of sunglasses, 212 cigarette lighters, 4,983 ballpoint pens. Here's a jockstrap we found on the Golden State Freeway. It appears to have mule hoof prints and chocolate sprinkles on it. Must have been quite an evening. Yes, you get back everything. Everything when you get to heaven. Well, not everything. You know, you don't get the big things back. Good judgment, that never comes back. Your tonsils, your appendix, they keep those for display purposes. Virginity, you don't get that back because you're in such a big hurry to get rid of it in the first place. But you get back all your wallets. You get back every wallet you ever lost. No cash. It's just like Earth. They keep the money as a prayer offering. Have you noticed that there are some people who, when they lose something, their first reaction is that it had to be stolen? First thing, hey, it was stolen. It's an ego defense. They can't stand the fact that they might have been stupid enough to have lost something. And even if it's something that nobody would really want that much. Hey, who stole my collection of used bandages? And they also got away with my nude pictures of Ernest Borgnine. Have you noticed this? When you lose something, the longer you look for it, the stranger the places are that you're looking. You look in the goddamnedest places after a while. You have to. You know why? You've already looked in the easy places. Those are the first places we look, the obvious places. That's why people say to each other, well, I've looked everywhere. Well, apparently not. The goddamn thing is still gone, isn't it? Let's keep looking in obvious places. I'll look in the furnace, you check the cesspool. You look in the strangest places. Did you ever look in the freezer for your car keys? Hey, you might as well. Shit, they might be in there. Wouldn't want to pass up a nice, obvious place like the freezer, would you? Because you can talk yourself into it. You can picture them in there. That's what the mind is for. Picturing where you left your car keys. You can follow the logic all the way back to the supermarket. I came out of the supermarket and I had the frozen banana guacamole in my hand. I put it next to me, drove home. When I got out, I picked up the banana guacamole. I had the car keys in this hand. I put it in the freezer. I probably just put the keys right down next to it. Let's go take a look. Ah, they're not in there. I could have sworn I left those keys in the freezer. And hey, who stole the frozen banana guacamole? You look in some strange places. And by the way, while you're in the kitchen, keep looking in obvious places. Check the toaster slots. Look inside a corn muffin. Can never tell. You might have just dropped the keys in the batter while you were passing through and they became trapped and baked inside a corn muffin. Wouldn't want to pass up an obvious thing like that. All things are possible when you're looking for your car keys. You look in some strange places for things. Do you ever find yourself looking in a suit that you haven't worn in 10 years for something you just had 15 minutes ago? You have to. Why? 6 more pockets. Wouldn't want to pass them up, would you? Or else you wouldn't be able to say, I've looked everywhere. By the way, while you're in the closet, check the watch pocket of your grandfather's World War I uniform. You just might have handed him the keys before the Battle of Verdun. Here's another thing that happens when you're looking for something. Every now and then you'll go back to where the thing ought to be. You might be out in the garage looking and suddenly you'll go back and open the top drawer. Whoop, nope, not back yet. You're convinced that St. Anthony will bring the keys back while you're in the garage. And of course, if you're looking for your car keys, one obvious place where you have to look 600 or 700 times is your pocket. You will wear out the cloth in your pocket looking because that's where they ought to be. Well, I had them now. Jesus, you know what I usually do? I put them right in here. See, hold on, wait, nope. No, they see, no. Oh, wait, hold on. See, now, wait. Nope, they're not in here. Usually I have, hold on, wait a minute. Nope, no. I thought maybe, no, hold on. Wait a minute, oh, I know. Maybe they fell upward. Maybe they fell upward and stuck to some bubble gum. You never know. Of course, those are obvious things, easy things like car keys. Sometimes an unusual item is missing, like the couch. Did you ever come home and the goddamn couch is gone? Where's the couch? I don't know. It's gone, that's true. Where could it be? Could be anywhere. Maybe it'll come back, maybe, but not this. No, it's too big, actually. Nothing over 4 feet ever comes back on its own. Well, it was here this morning. Well, of course it was here this morning. There'd be no sense in mentioning the fact that it isn't here now unless it had been here this morning. There'd be no basis for a comparison. Fuck you! I'm tired of your analytical shit! Why don't you take your logic and go to bed? I can't. Why not? I sleep on the couch. Sometimes it isn't a thing that's lost. It's you. I'm lost. Where am I? Where am I? What a frightening question to have to ask another human being seriously. Pardon me. Where am I? And to be hoping for a constructive answer. Not something like, you're in the land of broken dreams and shattered hopes. And you're next on line for the human sacrifice. Thank you very much. I'd rather be lost. Yeah, and you know, being lost is another one of those things that's worse when you're a child. Remember that? Being lost when you were a little kid, maybe 5 years old, and you got separated from your parents at the beach, and you know in your deepest heart and mind you may never see your loved ones again as long as you live. You are actually going to have to go out and get a job. And just when you were beginning to memorize a couple of the nursery rhymes, too. I think about being lost as a kid, and I get this echo effect in my head, as if I were lost in some spooky place once. So I'm kind of like, Mama, 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 where are you, 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 where are you? I'm lost, I'm lost, I'm lost, I'm lost, I'm lost, I'm lost. I must have been lost in a public bathroom. I'm lost. No, you're not. You're right here with me. Oh. Back from the pile, eh? We thought you were missing. Missing? That's different. That's more important than being lost. Missing gets in the newspapers. Lost, you're the only one who knows. Missing must be important. They actually have a missing persons bureau. You gotta have a place to keep these people while they're gone. You can't let them wander around. These fuckers are missing. You gotta give them a place to sit down and read a magazine and have a hot chocolate while they wait for someone to come and claim them. That's mine, the tall one with the hair. But I don't think anybody's missing. I really don't believe anybody's missing. How can you be missing? Doesn't that violate some law of physics? I mean, if you're not here, you're somewhere else. You might be missing from here, but by God, you're not missing from over there. Jimmy Hoffa isn't missing. He's in an oil drum in New Jersey. Are there any guys tonight in the audience wearing an earring? Is there a man in the audience with an earring? How about a sanitary napkin? Do you have one of them on by any chance? Oh, come on. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was a cheap joke. I'm sorry. That was a cheap joke, and I'm better than that. No, I'm not. Well, I only asked for a specific reason. Don't mean to embarrass anybody. See, I once wore an earring, and I'm wondering if the climate is still the same for people who take a chance. And I don't know, I guess it's a little different now. This was 10 or 12 years ago. It can't be quite the same. But I noticed certain things. This was, I say, 10 years ago, I decided to wear an earring. The only reason I had, very simple motive, I just wanted people to think I was different. Okay? And I thought, well, I'll drill a hole in my flesh. I only have 7 holes in my head now. I'll make an 8th hole in my head and put an ornament in there, and people will have to deal with me. I just wanted people to think I was a little strange, okay? I mean, apparently it wasn't strange enough that I stand up here going, I needed something a little extra. And I thought, well, self-mutilation, that might do the trick. So I drilled a hole in my ear, put an ornament in there, and set about my task. First thing I noticed was that some people didn't care. In fact, the whole world seemed indifferent to what I had done. Most people will not even look at the earring, I noticed that. They would look right in my eyes, ignoring the earring, and I know what's going through their mind. They're thinking, this asshole is wearing a fucking earring. But a lot of people wouldn't look at it because they couldn't handle it. I know that's what was going on. They couldn't handle it because they didn't know what it meant. You know, some people think everything has to mean something. Well, some things don't mean anything. But people think it means something. It means you're gay. If it's in this ear, it means you're gay. If it's in this ear, it means you like to hump water buffalo or something. I don't know. Somebody said to me, well, what does it mean? I said, it means I killed a man in prison for asking fucking questions. And that seemed to satisfy his curiosity. Finally, some guy said to me, are you gay? I said, well, bend over and let's find out. So you think I'm gay? Why don't you try to take the earring away from me? I mean, it's the same if you carry a little bag. If a man carries a little purse, that's all it is. It's a little purse. Some people can't handle the word. Some guys who carry them can't even call it that. They'll say, where's my little bag? I say, hey, it's your purse. Pick it up and get out of here, you asshole. I mean, if you can't handle the word, don't even carry the bag. It's a purse. I got one. What's the big deal? But some people like to taunt you. They'll say, is that your purse? And I say, yes, it is. And I have a picture of your mother in here sucking off an Indian. How do you like that? And that seems to satisfy their curiosity. So I wore the earring for a couple of years. I wore it about 2 years, and then I stopped wearing it when I heard that Andy Rooney had one. I thought, well, fuck me, how strange can I be? I stopped wearing the goddamn thing. I took it out, and my hole grew over. My earring hole. Hey. Come on. It's not my asshole. What, are you crazy? Get out of here. No, your asshole grows over. You might as well check straight into a cemetery. Because you're going to spend a lot of time walking around the beach wondering why you're getting larger. No. My earring hole grew over. And people noticed it. People would say, aren't you gaining weight? And I say, yes, my earring hole grew over. And aren't you a keen observer of detail? But these days, if you want to be different these days, one earring isn't enough. You got to have a whole colony of those goddamn things growing up the side of your head like they're out of control. Some guys are walking with a 30-degree list to port, setting off metal detectors all over town. Or if you really want to be different, you gotta get your nose pierced. That'll make you different. Get your nose pierced. Actually, you don't have to get it pierced. You can do it yourself at home with a paper punch. Oh. Makes a nice clean hole, only hurts for about a month.
And then you can put one of your dad's tie tacks in there. Hi, Dad.
What's that, one of my tie tacks? Yep, well, make sure you bring it home. You'll make a good impression at the job interview with one of your dad's tie tacks sticking through your nose. That's not a guy's thing for the most part. You won't see too many guys with the nose stud. It's more of a woman's thing to do. Guys figured out a long time ago. Hey, if I get punched in the face with one of those things in, it's gonna staple my nose to the back of my skull. Whoa, this fucking hurts, man. Well, I want it to be different. Well, you are now. No, you won't see many men do that. That's more of a woman's thing. And some women have more than one of them, don't they? Some exotic women have like 2 or 3 of them in there. Ooh, I could never handle that. I mean, it was hard enough keeping one earring clean. Can you imagine 3 nose studs and a heavy cold? Forget about it, man. And you might sneeze and kill your friend. Oh, Jesus, Joey! My fucking eye, Joey! Now your friend has a pierced eye to go along with your pierced nose. You'll be a big hit on. That's incredible. I'd like to mention a social problem we have in this country that a lot of people don't like to talk about, especially in public, but I think it's time we met this thing head on. It exists in a lot of families, although most people won't admit to it. I'm talking about battered plants. Okay, it's plant beating, pure and simple. There's no way to put a nice face on it. But it's part of a larger problem. It's part of an overall problem which is called the battering syndrome. And we've heard mostly about battered wives. That's the most prevalent part of the problem. And some work has been done in that direction. But then we began to hear about battered husbands. There are also battered husbands. Apparently this happens when the woman is real big, the man is real small, and they each drink a quart of whiskey a day. And we began to hear that other members of the family were affected. Battered step-uncles-in-law, battered foster cousins, battered third cousins once removed. In fact, the whole notion of battered distant relatives strikes me as awfully strange. To get on a bus and ride for 6 or 7 hours just to beat the shit out of someone you hardly ever see. I don't know. But the problem continued to grow. Battered fiancés, battered best friends, battered total strangers, which I think indicates a short fuse, don't you? And battered blind dates, which, as many of you know, quite often is completely justified. But then the problem took a bizarre turn. Then it got a little sick. We began to hear about battered pets. Battered pets. I couldn't believe it. When I first heard it, I said to myself, what? And I answered, well, yes, apparently so, according to the information. I often have these little conversations with myself. I do so love good conversation. But it's true, there are battered pets. This happens when someone gets frustrated at work, comes home, and beats the shit out of Fluffy. Then the problem got really out of hand. We began to hear about battered plants. Battered plants. And I said to myself, I said, what? And I answered, well, because this time I was speechless. But it's true, there are battered plants. And I don't mean just physical abuse. I'm not talking about strictly the physical abuse of plants. I don't mean like drop kicking some zinnias into the next yard. I'm not talking about pistol whipping a gardenia. I'm not even talking about stopping the car, getting out, and pissing on a bush. But I am talking about psychological abuse. I'm talking about the mental torture that we put plants through day in and day out. For instance, hanging plants. How do we know they aren't scared shitless up there? No wonder ivy clings. You'd cling too to the side of a building. So when you get home tonight, please take a look around the house and make sure you haven't left a plant in some corner where it doesn't want to be. And for God's sakes, never, never keep a plant in the bathroom. They hate that. And now, ladies and gentlemen, that we've enjoyed some good times this evening and enjoyed some laughter together, I feel it is my obligation to remind you of some of the negative, depressing, dangerous, life-threatening things that life is really all about. Things you have not been thinking about tonight, but which will be waiting for you as soon as you leave the theater or as soon as you turn off your television sets. Anal rape, quicksand, body lice, evil spirits, gridlock, acid rain, continental drift, labor violence, flash floods, rabies, torture, bad luck, calcium deficiency, falling rocks, cattle stampedes, bank failure, evil neighbors, killer bees, organ rejection, lynching, toxic waste, unstable dynamite, religious fanatics, prickly heat, price fixing, moral decay, hotel fires, loss of face, stink bombs, bubonic plague, neo-Nazis, friction, serial weevils, failure of will, chain reactions, soil erosion, mail fraud, dry rot, voodoo curses, broken glass, snake bite, parasites, white slavery, public ridicule, faithless friends, random violence, breach of contract, family scandal, charlatans, transverse myelitis, structural defects, race riots, sunspots, rogue elephants, wax buildup, killer frost, jealous co-workers, root canals, metal fatigue, corporal punishment, sneak attacks, peer pressure, vigilantes, birth defects, false advertising, ungrateful children, financial ruin, mildew, loss of privileges, bad drugs, ill-fitting shoes, widespread chaos, Lou Gehrig's disease, stray bullets, runaway trains, chemical spills, locusts, airline food, shipwrecks, prowlers, bathtub accidents, faulty merchandise, terrorism, discrimination, wrongful cremation, carbon deposits, beef tapeworm, taxation without representation, escaped maniacs, sunburn, abandonment, threatening letters, entropy, 9-mile fever, poor workmanship, absentee landlords, solitary confinement, depletion of the ozone layer, unworthiness, intestinal bleeding, defrocked priests, loss of equilibrium, disgruntled employees, global warming, card sharps, poison meat, nuclear accidents, broken promises, contamination of the water supply, obscene phone calls, nuclear winter, wayward girls, mutual assured destruction, rampaging moose, the greenhouse effect, cluster headaches, social isolation, Dutch elm disease, the contraction of the universe, paper cuts, eternal damnation, the wrath of God, and paranoia! Thank you all very much. Thank you very much, and good night, y'all. See you now.